one. It will
Mine over just going, okay, what am I gonna do
just
with that?
clutter, but no, what I'm going to do is I'm
Oh,
going
there
to
you
say,
go.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home and say, I have 3 children and I have one of these. The child that is the best for an extended period of time gets it because you know they want it. It's blackmail.
Yep. Yep, the best child will be deemed head trash.
This little trash can.
Listen up, you little pieces of trash.
I've had enough. This is the traveling trophy.
The traveling trophy.
Or maybe, yes, maybe it's a shame. Maybe it's a shame thing.
Maybe it's this, yeah.
Who didn't do their chores properly?
Yep.
You get the trash can of shame.
Trash can of shame.
You can't see it real well, but this is new shop I'm building.
Oh, yeah.
But this end section between the red posts, that's going to be for my garbage cans. It's gonna be enclosed where
Oh, yeah.
the other 2 are for my dogs. You know,
Oh, nice.
I'm making it a run.
So did you just extend off of, you didn't do your, you just extended off of the existing truss line?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's coming along nice.
I put the roof on that framed area on the side last weekend, so garage door is all I got left to put on the
Where do you
outside.
find time to do all this, Alan? For
That's
heaven's
awesome.
sakes.
That looks good.
That's what
You're doing that all by yourself? Oh, wait, it just went. There we go. Just went. Yeah, that's impressive. What's the size on that? It looks big.
30 by 42.
Wow.
I started it
Wow. That's nice.
middle of June.
I remember when you were pulling the weekend concrete pour.
Nice.
Yeah, 35 yards of concrete one weekend's a lot for me.
And you were you had help, right? With the concrete?
My wife.
Oh, that's impressive.
Your son-in-law never ended up coming down?
He said he made all the arrangements, but he didn't make it down.
He sent a crew down, right?
Convenient.
Oh, they never made it?
Wow.
You put all that concrete down yourself? Oh my!
Framed it myself.
I knew you had framed it and
Put
everything.
the trusses up. Did the roofing last 2 weekends. Finished.
You set the trusses by yourself too? Did you roll them all by hand?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Here's what I did to put them up. Pick this end up, and then I lifted this end up.
That's amazing.
I do it down the middle. I lifted it up.
And then say all rise, and then just start pledge allegiance.
All
And then
right.
everybody will start saying it.
It's certainly not the safest way to build.
Oh my gosh.
All rise.
I didn't know that you ended up doing all the concrete by yourself.
Jordan bolts.
Yes.
Okay.
But, thank you. You know, it's pretty well closed in now. So I'm actually lining the inside.
Oh gosh. I never got one of these before. This is cute.
Plywood.
You should be the one that has them. You're on the board.
This is so cute.
Top walls.
I have lots of these.
Yeah.
These are great though, especially now that Kroger
My
just
metal,
Smith's
my
is gonna
metal
stop
outbuilding, my
plastic
metal
bags.
garage. I'm
My
actually
problem
gonna
is I always forget them.
line with plywood. I just haven't got to it yet, but I'm gonna line the
Oh, but
inside
that's
of
why
that
they're
with
in these
plywood
things.
too.
My metal mark.
This is like a Barbie garbage can.
Sure, absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's taking
Siding.
Uh-huh.
And put it on the
Inside.
colored on the outside, and the inside is galvanized.
Just galvanized.
And that galvanized on the inside takes a beating, but
Oh yeah.
Like a
Still
Barbie
though, protects it. I've actually wanted to go get just either just a wide or a galvanized and do the inside of my car garage. Because that takes the water, you know, everything. You can just spray it all down and get rid of it. And so just haven't got to it yet.
I can't remember who he said. He
so with all of my equipment in the garage,
said that does computer investigations to actually go more than that.
The floor.
Like as if they were me gauging. Yeah, I'm fine with just doing nothing. If I don't
See, that's how my garage is. That's why I want to cover it.
I'm gonna
And if I try and go back and put another coat of mud on it, the tape's all gonna fall off.
you essentially got
You got to start over. Yeah.
that one in particular. All of them, but that one.
I told Mike. What's in it? Hey, you guys split it. When do you get the BYOB?
Creepy.
That's pretty cool.
What is it?
It's the BYOD bag.
But luckily, silence is good. Silence is golden. I'm liking the silence.
So you get to figure out where you want to be.
Yeah, real quiet. I show you that. That was the view from our balcony.
Gorgeous.
And Maui?
Oahu.
Oahu.
Yeah, that was our first morning there. That was at sunrise at 6:30 because I'd been out on the balcony since 4:30.
Why? Because you woke up.
Time change, 4-hour difference.
Yeah.
I was
By the time you adjusted, it's time to go home.
I was awake at 4 o'clock and at 4:30. My wife just finally says to me, she's like, "You awake?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Let's just go sit on the balcony." I said, "Okay." My kids were sitting out there with us by 5:15.
Wendy,
in the morning eating cereal.
Mitch, Wendy, are we ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Just a cell phone camera?
This one. This one, my phone.
What is this? iPhone what?
It's an 8.
It's an 8.
That look nice. This
Yours will do portrait, right? Where you do the, yeah, I love that. I've always wanted this.
Okay. All right. I would like you to welcome you out to our city council meeting for Wednesday, September 26, 2018. We will go ahead and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Jordan Bowles.
All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And Jordan and her classmates are here for assignment at school, and we're happy to have you. Thank you for coming.
That's a horrible assignment.
It's a government class. So, item 1.2, disclosures of conflict of interest from any of the members of the council.
None.
No? Okay. Any comments or recognition by council? Okay. Go ahead.
I'll just say, again, a big thank you to all those who helped in the fire in Herriman on the 15th, I believe it was, just on 7530 in that area. It was really amazing. I'll tell you personally, this is probably a terrible story to tell on myself, but I had received a call from a neighbor asking if I could go help evacuate some animals for another friend of mine, and I was in my car at the time, and I was driving there, and I pulled up to the police officer, and I said, "I need to go help my neighbor get her animals out." He said, "No, you're not going in there." And I was so irritated at him. But then it just took a few minutes for me to sit back and think and watch all the traffic that started to accumulate out there, and it was crazy, the draw of just people who want to see what's going on. And then I realized, wow, he has a tough job to do, because he told me, "You can go right ahead and go up there and I'll arrest you." And I said, okay, fine. But it's so important for us to be respectful to that process, because his job was to get people out of the way so the people who needed to get in there to help save property and lives and things like that could get in there. And we just need to be respectful of that. So just really grateful for quick response. And I can't tell you how closely that came to so many of my good friends' homes, within a foot or two of their homes. And it was amazing that they were able to save. And, certainly sorry for the people who did lose their homes, but certainly very grateful for the quick response from those first responders.
Didn't I see you up in there later, Carrie?
Okay, I went the other way, okay? But I asked.
All right.
Sure, knock me out.
Way to throw her out under the bus there.
I was able to access the animals and help my neighbor, but it was through the proper process, and they told me I could.
I was up in that area as well, and there was a tremendous coordinated and you know, everyone, neighbors helping neighbors up there. It was
great.
very,
In a bad way.
yes, very chaotic there for a few, for sure.
So I want to take just a moment and thank UPD on behalf of our city. We have been partners with UPD for many years, and while many of our residents are aware that this Saturday night at 11:59 we will start taking over our own police services, UPD has been a partner that has helped to protect our city for quite some time. So we want to express our gratitude and appreciation for all the efforts and all the officers that have been serving, and I'm sure from time to time will continue to serve in our community. So thank you very much for what you guys have done for us. All right, we will move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Audience members may bring any item to the mayor and council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law does prohibit the council from acting on any items that do not appear on the agenda. So if you have an item of public comment at this time, please come up. Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment section of our meeting. Any council committee reports or board reports?
We had the garbage board meeting on Monday, Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling, and it was a great meeting. Pam will be here today. The director there will be here today to give us an update on that, so I won't belabor that too much, but we're going over budget and things like that, so we'll be looking forward to a little bit
reviewing the budget, or you're going over budget?
We're going through the budget for next year, not going over, but we're going through the budget for next year, so those were just some of the issues that were on the agenda.
Okay. Well, that will actually take us to that portion of our meeting. Item 4.1, Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District update. Pam.
Yes, so I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Mayor, Council, staff. It's always a privilege to come to Herriman. There's always been a special place in my heart for this city, and even used to live here for a time. So very thankful that we get to proudly serve the residents of this city. I'm here tonight to talk about recycling and to try to answer any questions, mysteries, you know, what's going on with China? Is China the biggest change with the markets? Yes, it is. I sent a video clip from CBS Sunday Morning that aired in late August that I've been taking out to municipal councils and community councils to help educate of the why has the market changed. So I'm going to let the video speak for itself. It's about 9 minutes, and then I'll jump in and kind of give you an overview. But the bottom line is it's still worth it to do it.
A new material burst onto the scene that can change the world forever.
The ingenious alchemy of coal and oil provides the material.
I think you have another one running in the background there, Alan. Or two.
Yeah.
Sounded like I was listening to teenagers.
Yeah, you've got two running at the same time, Alan, so you need to close one of those tabs. How dare they?
Just one word.
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Plastics.
That advice to Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate foretold a future of this, all of it. Now it's all piling up on land and swamping our seas, mountains of trash, with no end in sight. Our cover story is from Yahoo Tech columnist David Pogue.
In the 1950s, a new material burst onto the scene that would change the world forever.
The ingenious alchemy of coal and oil provides the material. Ingenious machinery presses and stamps and molds the material into a wide variety of products.
Yes, it was plastic. Cheap, durable, sanitary, strong, and light.
So how many raw categories of plastics are there?
Oh, wow. Literally thousands. Because
Fred Betke is the founder of Delta Pacific Products, which makes plastic parts for medical instruments.
Okay, so welcome to the factory.
Thank you. We're all ready to serve cafeteria lunches now.
That's right.
Almost everything plastic starts out as pellets. They come in every color under the sun, which is why Betke keeps them carefully in separate boxes.
So what will you pay me not to dump some of this in?
Please don't do that.
Delta Pacific's clients specify the exact design of the parts they want. Here, hot plastic gets injected into this heavy steel mold. Later, it comes out as something like this. After 65 years of making plastic, we've pretty much mastered the art. What we haven't yet figured out is what to do with plastic once we're done with it.
It lasts a really long time. It doesn't biodegrade, so it just sits there.
Roland Geyer, professor of environmental science at UC Santa Barbara, has studied how much plastic we throw away.
We have statistics reaching all the way back to the dawn of plastic mass production, 1950. And if we add it all together, it's 8.3 billion metric tons. So if we take that and spread it out evenly over California, the entire state of California would be covered. And that would be an ugly sight.
About 70% of our discarded plastic winds up in open dumps or landfills like this one.
So, plastic bag, probably used once between the cash register and the car. And then how long will it be here in the landfill?
It will be with us for hundreds of years.
But some plastic winds up in an even worse place, the ocean.
Every single year, somewhere between 5 and 12 million metric tons of plastic waste enters the ocean. Plastic in the ocean has a tendency to break down into ever smaller pieces. And these tiny pieces then get taken up even lower down in the food chain. So we know that it ends up on our dinner plates.
There's plastic in my food?
There is plastic in your food, plastic in your sea salt, and there is plastic coming out of your tab.
In fact, at this rate, the World Economic Forum predicts that by 2050, our oceans will contain more plastic than fish. But wait a minute. Don't most people recycle plastic? Not exactly. Geyer says that as of 2017, the world recycles only about 9% of all our plastic. Even if you're good about using your recycling bin, your plastic may never actually get recycled. Its first stop is a material recovery facility where metal, glass, paper, and plastic get sorted.
We sort everything. So we will sort hangers, we'll sort plastic film, we will sort soda bottles, pill bottles, and make individual bales of each plastic.
Ah, okay.
Sunil Bagaria is the co-founder of GDB International, a corporate recycling facility in New Jersey.
Then it is going to another factory, which is then washing it, grinding it, pelletizing it. Then from there it will go to another company which will make another product or maybe blowing another bottle.
It's easy and economical to recycle clean, pure plastic. But well over half the plastic we throw in our bins is contaminated by food or paper labels or other materials. For 30 years, we've had an easy solution for disposing of that dirty plastic.
And what is the role of China in all of this?
That is the million-dollar question. China was buying 50% of all plastic scrap in the world. That continued for, say, 20, 30 years. And then there was I think a movie made by somebody.
Plastic China.
Plastic China.
The 2017 documentary Plastic China illustrated the brutal truth about the contaminated plastic that developed nations were selling to China. It showed a desperately poor Chinese family eking out a living by hand sorting these mountains of plastic trash.
So the Chinese government, the Communist Party is waking up and saying, why are we doing this?
There's some national pride. We
Yes,
want to
yes.
be the world's dumping ground.
Yes.
So the Chinese government announced a new policy. Starting on January 1st this year, China stopped accepting other countries' plastic, unless it's impossibly pure.
If you are sending any scrap, it should not have more than 0.5% of foreign matter.
It's got to be at least 99.5%
pure plastic.
Yeah.
And then that was obviously unattainable.
In his plant, Bagaria showed me why.
So right here you have like 4 or 5 different types of plastic.
A lot of plastic comes to recyclers like Bagaria all mixed together, impossible to separate cost effectively. So what happens now to the plastic we used to ship to China? Not much. A lot of it's just piling up here in the States.
We still have large volumes of the types of plastic that nobody will buy, sitting, waiting for somebody to buy them.
Clay Warner is the recycling manager at Garten Services in Salem, Oregon.
And then you have to decide how long you're going to hold on to it before you end up throwing it away.
The town had to ask the public to stop putting certain plastic types into their recycling bins.
First initial reaction from the public was outrage. What do you mean we can't recycle these plastics?
Meanwhile, smaller recycling centers are simply going out of business.
If you were selling it to China, there was some revenue coming. Now if you are sending it to landfill costs money. So not only now you are not earning, now you are paying to get rid of it.
Still, Roland Geyer points out that we have overcome environmental nightmares before.
We banned leaded gasoline. We managed to tackle ozone depletion. So I think humankind has a long history of creating big environmental problems, but I think we're also starting to have a track record of solving environmental problems.
Some larger facilities, like Sunil Bagaria's, have decided to process the contaminated plastic themselves.
Earlier we were making money by selling it to China. Now we are making more money by keeping this here, sorting it, and making plastic pellets out of it. This China problem is a blessing in disguise.
In the big picture, though, it will take effort from every stakeholder to fix the plastics problem. Recycler Clay Warner says that government should play a part.
I do think, in my own opinion, that we do need to ban certain plastics and packaging.
Sunil Bagaria says that corporations play a part.
It's like McDonald's. They have announced that by 2025, all our packaging will be made from recycled plastic.
And plastic parts maker Fred Becky says that plastic manufacturers themselves play a part.
Yes, the industry's trying to address it. Polymers are being developed that, as you know, the knives and spoons and forks that we see in some of the fast foods, they've gone to those polymers, which are biodegradable. It has to happen. I mean, this is all we've got, right? So
yeah, that's right.
We cannot imagine life without plastics, but we cannot continue to lead our life the way we are. It's not like, oh, let's use this planet Earth, then we will move to another planet. This is what we have. We need to take care of this.
Okay, so like I said, there is good news. The good news is also the product stewardship that's happening, and McDonald's making a very needed change to have all their containers being made from recycled materials. Kroger has announced that they will not offer plastic bags nationwide, basically, or throughout their stores. Is it 2022, Sean?
They will, yeah, 2022, no more plastic bags.
No more plastic bags offered in Kroger, and that's Smith's. That's a lot. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I always have hard times, so I'll do my best. I do want to introduce Sean Summerhays. He's our sustainability coordinator. You may recognize him from some of the events that he attends, or waving at you from the waste and recycling truck going around in the parade. But he has been instrumental in making sure that we get the information out to our residents and to the municipal partners to make sure that everyone's aware that we're continuing on with recycling. And as I mentioned, I do have some information here I do want to review going through here. Our board did meet, as Councilmember Orn mentioned, met on Monday to review the 2019 budget. And with the board's permission, we've continued on with the weekly collections of garbage and recycling, with also in our budget to fund the additional costs for recycling materials. And so we've budgeted in there $980,000 to pay for about 23,000 tons that we collect to go for processing. And the lion's share that we deliver goes to Rocky Mountain Recycling because of proximity. They do have a slightly higher fee than Waste Management, but we anticipate that some of those fees may go up or down. They fluctuate depending on what the market is. And month by month, it has been changing. So what I'm going to show you is our averages that we had as of June as we move forward. And we have seen some decrease, believe it or not, in what we've been paying, but you never know. That could go up a little bit. So we're going on averages again. So one of the things I want to get rid of is the thought that we're going to come back to you. We just came to you in 2017 with a fee increase for 18 going forward. We're not doing that. What this is about is just to educate that the costs have gone up, as they do in many markets. They fluctuate, and recycling is a little volatile right now. We're going to keep a close eye on it. So when I came to you in 2017 and other municipal councils, I said that with the fee increase in 18, we were projecting that we could sustain before the next fee increase until 2022, 2023. And with the change of the recycling, we didn't know for sure if that window would be shortened. Right now, as it stands, our fund balance will sustain us, and understand we're spending that down as we go. It will sustain us until 2022, so in 2021 I may very well be back to talk about an increase going into 22. That's just an FYI that that's what we went into this year's budget with the goal to sustain that so to speak, promise that we made last year coming into 18. Let me make sure I get this. So one of the things that has been asked, well, just throw it in the landfill and then we won't have any increased costs. Well, that's misinformation. There's an increased cost no matter where we take recycling. If it goes to the landfill, you're looking at roughly a 75-cent per home per month cost increase. I'm not talking about a fee, I'm talking about a cost increase if we break that out, because it's shared cost for all of us, and I do live in the district as well, versus $1 per home per month for it to be taken for recycling. I'll get into where we get those numbers. As I mentioned, it's the average of what we pay. So the difference in what we put out in the survey was this information, and I'll get into the results district-wide and then specifically the Herriman residents, respondents, information they shared with us. So the difference is about 25 cents per home per month to continue recycling over landfilling, if you look at a difference, $1 versus 75. We did a customer survey, had 6 questions. We had it strictly online so that we could use SurveyMonkey and not have to hire another person to part-time to come in and do the analysis, gather all the paper, because we had 6,300 respondents. And so if, we basically cut costs by making sure we did it online through SurveyMonkey only. And that is the highest number of respondents we've ever had with any survey we've put out there. Even our customer satisfaction that we do annually gets roughly around 3,000 to 3,500 responses, and most of them are through the mail. Yes,
and you
ma'am.
didn't do anything different in terms of the administration of the survey as you've done previously?
It was still done, quote unquote, third party electronically, because SurveyMonkey gathered the data. We're just pulling the reports from SurveyMonkey.
I'm just trying to ascertain if it was the topic that upped the interest, or was it the manner in which you distributed the survey?
I think it was the topic, and I think it was that it was only 6 questions.
Short.
So we might gauge that when we do our annual survey this year and shorten it and see if we get a better response. But yeah, and as always, we push out any survey to our public information contacts for every municipality to help get the word out. And Herriman has been great at doing that, making sure information goes out. So the results, let me get on to that, are basically There were 877 Herriman residents that responded to the survey out of the over 6,300. We feel like that's a valid sample. District-wide, it was 79.9% of the respondents said that they want to continue and will support the recycling efforts that we have, which was, I thought, great, which gave the board power, I thought, and I believe that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the board felt that, yeah, we need to continue with the service, and we're going to go ahead and fund it. And then there was 76.7 as far as residents go, in Herriman specifically go, that still support it, well over 2/3. And that's one of the things I want to point out is that in 2011, the district board, which was established in 2010, with cities being at the table, Herriman having a representative as well, said, well, what if we rolled out weekly recycling? Would our residents want it? So at that time, we were bi-weekly, if you remember. So we did a survey to say, okay, how many people want weekly recycling? And then are you willing to pay the additional cost for that service? And there was over 2/3, so there's over 63% district-wide, which that's what the board said, yes, that's good. Mayor Caroon, who still managed our personnel, tricky dynamic, but we rolled it out. So keep in mind that they've been living with weekly recycling all these years. And so that's, to me, says they love it. They want to keep it going. They want to keep the weekly. There were 1.8% residents in Herriman that do not recycle, which is a small minority. 70.5 of the district residents would support a nominal fee increase in the next 2 to 3 years to support the recycling efforts. And then 65.2 of the Herriman residents that responded said they would support that fee, which is still over 2/3. And then it gives you the breakout by age. We asked the demographic of what is your age range, and you can see that breakout. And even the 76-plus-year-olds were still 60% in support, which I thought was phenomenal. If there's no questions there, I'll just move on to some of the financials. Okay, so this, as I mentioned, are averages based on what we were being charged as of June. And as I mentioned, they still fluctuate as far as the charges from Rocky Mountain or waste. Now, for landfill fees, we do take the lion's share to the Salt Lake Valley facilities, which charge the $32.85 of garbage. That's what I'm basing that $32.85. Transjordan charges $31, but they receive a smaller portion of our waste. So I just took the majority there, $32.85, if that makes sense. And this is how we came up with the projections of the dollar versus the 75 cents. And I'm open to questions. The bottom line is I wanted to try to deliver good news, as good as it can be, and I'm very optimistic in general, but I remain optimistic about recycling, because there for a while I was even questioning with my big optimistic attitude. I was still going, gosh, but to see this from the residents, I thought was just fantastic.
Yeah, I think that was a huge influence on the board too, because obviously when it's an increase in cost for something like that, you start to question it. But when you receive that kind of feedback from the residents you represent, it kind of makes it a no-brainer that that's the direction that they want to go. So I mean, 3/4 of Herriman residents support recycling. So
I got a question. Was this a statistically significant survey? Did it follow standard statistical procedures?
Yes.
Random sample.
Yes.
How did we get the residents? How did they choose the people that they invited to participate in this one?
Well, we did it through, we send out postcards district-wide to 10,000 residents at random, similar to how we notify residents about our year-end customer satisfaction survey. And we based the number per area on the number of homes that we service.
Okay, thank you.
So it was a certain percentage based on the number of homes for Herriman, which is
Well,
close to.
and if it was a random sample of those residents, 877 responses is more than enough to be valid. So
That's actually a very good response.
that's a huge
Yes.
response.
10,000 to get 6355 back is significant. Can you go forward?
The other, not to interrupt you, but
Before you
the
go,
other
go back.
interesting thing about that too was there was actually more responses than postcards sent in Herriman. So that means that the social media outlets and
Yes.
things like that also were effective
So
in
was this
notifying
survey
people about
open
that.
to anyone to take, even if they didn't receive a postcard?
It was on our web,
Yeah.
but it was mainly we had, in the first question was, where do you live?
So you could still make sure that you were keeping the percentages within the, the services that you provide.
Correct.
Because the mayor brings up a good point. If you were just opening it up, it sort of negates what you were trying to do to keep the responses according to your service levels within those.
Yeah, so we did even have somebody from Salt Lake City that tried to respond and they couldn't. And they posted or sent a message to Anthony, who is kind of the administrator, our executive assistant, records manager, and he said, "I'm sorry, you don't live in the district, so you were kicked out, basically." Yes, ma'am.
Will you just go one more slide forward? So maybe speaking from ignorance here, so when you're looking at the Rocky Mountain recycling at 4428 and then the waste management at 3842, and you were talking about those fees being, within proximity of each other, that still seems like a significant difference to
Sure.
me. So then I go back to the point of, competition keeps everybody honest.
Yes.
So maybe help me understand the reasoning for staying with the higher recycling choice there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked the question. So for waste management, they also, the challenges, besides proximity, is that they can only manage a certain tonnage from us, volume, because they deliver recycling from the cities that they service. And so I think there were 3 or 4 that they service, and then there might be others. I know Salt Lake City actually started taking it to waste management, and that kind of even more tipped the scale of, oh, I'm sorry, we can only take so much. My understanding is there could be some changes happening because Salt Lake City did put out an RFP for recycling processing services. And still has not become public. I imagine when it does, there'll be some changes that we will benefit from, that everyone will benefit from.
Feels public now that you've said it.
Pardon?
Feels public now that you've said it.
Yes, you're right, it is. And I've only shared what I can share with you publicly. I did serve on the committee, the selection committee, and sworn to secrecy, and I honor that. But I did just, ask, can I say these things? And they said, yes, you can say these because that's what they're saying.
Well, and I appreciate your willingness to continue. Yeah, and I know you've always done that, try and keep costs low. And so just a statement there that we're of the same ilk, that we want to make sure that we're keeping costs as low as possible when there's options that we can go to.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked the question so that I've been pointing that out, but I totally overlooked it, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
The other thing to note of the price difference is the markets that each of those companies are able to access. So Rocky Mountain Recycling is re-looking at their business model and trying to find other markets that before were very profitable for them, and understanding there's still profit to recycle. It's just the profit is a lot smaller. So they're trying to cover their costs for processing through any revenue they receive, and then making it up with fees to providers. And so we're not the only ones paying. I believe every municipality has been approached with maybe some fee adjustments or something of that nature, or in negotiations right now.
Thank you, Pam.
You bet.
So really one of the most frustrating things about this recycling thing is to listen so much about the Chinese market, and we're shipping all this to China and stuff. So all of you young people out there, you high school people, this will make you a lot of money if you can figure out how to process these plastics that are dirty and process them here in the United States. There's a huge market for that if you can figure it out.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the gentleman in the video did say that, they started recycling their own. and making their own pellets to recreate materials. So I anticipate local markets are going to open up, especially with the tariffs and not being able to ship it or receive. So I'm really starting to see some positives. And I'm sitting here trying to pull this bag out. So to get on to some of the public education, and I did leave flyers at the back of the room, as well as a blue recycling can, and then the BYOB bag. So the BYOB, this is, as you may recall, if you received one of these bags in the past, it was quite large. So we were able to find a vendor to provide a more palatable or easier to carry bag that you can wash and reuse many times. So BYOB, bring your own bag. We're really educating our residents not to put plastics in the blue bin, the thin film plastics, shopping bags, even the dry cleaning bags, or please don't bag your recycling, which I know out here in Herriman can create some issues with the wind, and we do the best we can to try to keep it contained. I know some residents will put a rock on top of their lid, and the driver will knock it off before they dump, which we appreciate. Because,
and Pam, to be clear, it's not even just a please don't do it. If they do it, they're negating the whole reason that they're recycling, because you don't, as I understand it, recyclers don't touch anything in those plastic bags, so everything they're trying to recycle goes in the trash. So it's not even just a please don't, it's you're fighting against yourself if you are.
And driving up that price per ton. Because as the gentleman mentioned as well, you have to pay to take it to the landfill. The recycling vendors pay a fee, a tipping fee at the landfill, each one of them, whichever landfill they take it, to take dirty recycling or bagged recycling if they can't break it open as it comes across the line, or if they won't. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that point up. So keep them out. I'll be a little more stern. Don't put them in. And then just remember, it's still worth it. We need to just at boots on the ground. The more of us that are making a change of how we recycle, the better we're going to do, and those fees will come down. And it will help, keep costs low. So thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you for coming and speaking with us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, we will move on to item 4.2. This is going to be a timeline of boundary changes and an update to the new high school and elementary school given by our school board member, Darrell Robinson.
If you have any extra grocery bags, my daughter would appreciate them. Just drop them off in front of her house. She's actually working at Utah Valley University, and they make rugs out of them and send them to third world countries. So just drop them in front of my house, or maybe we'll just pick them up from waste management. But anything to recycle. So thanks, Mayor Watts and council members, for inviting me here today, and staff. I just made a whole bunch of...
Thank you, appreciate it.
Made a whole bunch of handouts, and I didn't even give you everything. I didn't want to overwhelm you. But I really appreciate the time and really interested in your questions, and hopefully I can help out some way. I think this is one of the most bold moves the school board has ever done. And I'm not just talking about the Jordan School District, I'm talking about any school board. We have about 1,400 empty high school seats in the Jordan School District right now. That's not counting the new high school. When we open that next year, we'll have well over 4,000, maybe 4,200 empty high school seats. But we all know you just have to walk down the halls at Herriman or Copper Hills, and you can see that the schools are just way overcrowded. And the problem is not that we don't have space, is that the space is not balanced. And so one of the things that our school board wanted to do, and I'll just say something about middle schools are pretty balanced. Elementaries are 522 available seats with no portables. That's if we do use no portables. So what we're trying to do is we want to be really fiscally responsible and really kind of balance out our resources before we ask the public for more money. We all know that more housing is going to be built and more people are going to come to our community because we have the most, let's just face it, we have the best community in the world, and so everyone wants to live here. And so because of that, we want to be really fiscally responsible, make sure we're using those resources. This is a great time as we're opening these new schools, new high school this next year, couple middle schools, one in South Jordan, one in Bluffdale, and a couple elementaries, a rebuild in West Jordan. This is a great time for us just to look at every corner. You'll see in front of us just a timeline. We sent a letter sent just recently, and I provided that to you. Boundaries.jordandistrict.org should be your friend, and that will tell you whether or not we have disturbed your neighborhood or not, and that's where the surveys will be, and that's where as much input as we'll put on there, much questions. The next page is really a timeline, so you'll see some of those timelines have been passed, including last night when we revealed this. And we'll want to say, like, maybe to take the heat off me, so we don't make backdoor deals. We establish priorities, and we have our staff develop those boundaries. So last night was also our board's first opportunity. So we gave a couple proposals in each of the different areas. Every school was affected except for two. That was Midas Creek and Golden Fields Elementary. I always say it's never A or never B, it's always C. So by proposing these moves does not mean that we're going to make those moves. Now the next step is taking it to community, to our city leaders, and get their input and try to make some good win-win solutions. So we presented that last night. My head's still spinning. I am probably the most sought-after person in Herriman today. I don't know if that's all good.
That's a good thing for us.
Yeah, that's probably good for you guys. I diverted the attention. But it's been nice to talk to people, and it's been nice that people are upset that we're going to pull them out of their school, because I think that means we're doing a good job in their schools, right? And that's always really, really tough, and I've a personal experience about that in the last move. So tomorrow night we're holding a parent university for the community to come and look at our process. So this process was probably 18 months in the making. We looked through every closet. You'll see in the next pages we have school capacities. So you kind of see we just went through every corner. How can we use this school? What if we put a portable on? What's the usage on it? And we have identified every single school and what the capacity is. And I included all those for you. They are also on the website if the public's listening and want to see them. We also have done really good projection rates and of what the communities should grow at. We have worked really well with your cities to get as good a numbers as we can. We feel fairly confident with a 5-year growth, and the farther we get out always is the harder to predict. So some of these are based on those projections that we've done, and I really want to thank the city for working with us so much on getting those projections. So ultimately, we'll present the process tomorrow night, and then what's most important, and what I would want to communicate with you and with the public that may be watching this today, is we'll spend the next month having some open houses to discuss some of the possibilities. We'll have some surveys open. We'll have some board meetings. There'll be a night, the 23rd, that everyone will be able to come out and let us all know what you think, and we'll make some decisions and narrow it down, and we hope to have the boundaries finalized by November 13th. And that's a rough date. We may have to go a meeting or so longer. We definitely want to have it done before Christmas, but that's our target date to be done. As soon as that's open, and we can talk about this a little bit in a minute, if permits are available at the school, permits will open up 1st of December, close somewhere mid-February, and we'll start picking the name for the new high school and all of that as soon as we pick these boundaries. So I also included in your packet update on the new high school. If you're interested, I can handle any questions that you might have with that. There was a move to maybe hurry and name it. We did have to pick colors, and so you see the colors are red, gray, and white. As the board, we didn't feel it was good to have the school named until the boundaries are set. And that's going to put some pressure on us to get the football field in, maybe uniforms ordered, but we want this to be a community name for those people that we go into. So we'll start that process the night that we decide the boundaries. So if anyone knows a good name, they haven't told me, so I think I have like 900 names.
Robinson Elementary?
David Watts High School.
No.
And then I just included, and this might...
I oppose. I oppose.
I also included, just for your information, just the fact sheet of what we offer at the JTech program. It's not technically in our community. We share it with the whole district, but we have a lot of our kids that go to the programs over there, and it's a great program. So
my daughter just started taking the JTech program. She's doing veterinary science, and she loves it.
Awesome.
It's a great program, a great opportunity for them to really get hands-on experience. You know, I know she likes getting out of school early. That's part of it, but she's
fine.
really enjoying it. So good work.
My
on
daughter's doing cosmetology, so they probably ride the same bus over, whatever. It's fun. Carpool. So great. Thank you for that, Nicole. So I'm just open for questions. What I was intending to bring to you tonight is the boundaries. To be honest, I've stared at the boundaries for hours, and they make my head spin. You might want to pull them up. I was going to send you the email, boundaries.jordandistrict.org. You might have already seen them. I can entertain any questions if you want.
I'm looking at them right now, and it seems like you've called.
They're all up, and you already have your questions.
Every school has been broken down individually, so you can look at each individual school boundary changes in addition to the overall changes. So just as people are going to look at them, feel free to scroll down to the particular school you're going to, as you'll get a lot more detail as exactly what that
You'll see what's going out and what's coming in, and that's what we want to talk about is, you know, like, did we make the right decisions? This is when the public comes in and say, hey, my neighbor across the street, you know, they're in a different school. And the neighbor across the other way is in a different school, so what's up with this? And we'll look at those things, and we'll try to make some really good decisions. And so, what questions would you have of me? I didn't want to be too prepared.
With the new high school, how are we addressing getting students across Mountain View Corridor? Sounds like it's a hard question.
All right, so I'll just tell you my priorities. I don't know if all the board agrees with this. I will not have an elementary kid walk across Mountain View Corridor under no circumstance. That's my priority. I'm only one member of a board. That absolutely can't happen. I know in the proposal some kids are going to be walking across. I was disappointed with this. They're walking across Mountain View, down 134th. They'll be crossing the new Autumn Crest, down 134th to South Hills. I can't for the life of me think that I'll ever let my middle school kid do that. And so something's got to change. I'll say it here because maybe the rest of our board won't listen to this, and I haven't brought it up to the board yet, but every time I bring up hazardous busing, it gets shut down. And I was led to believe that maybe hazardous busing is not an option, that we'd lose our funding. Recently, I came across some information from the state that we're the only district that's not doing hazardous busing. So I'll be bringing that up, you know that. And I don't know of any street that's more hazardous busing than Mountain View. Maybe Bacchus Highway, but, you know, maybe Bangerter. Redwood, I think, is a lot safer than those. I used to live off Redwood Road, and it's a pretty safe street to cross. So I will be making a run for that. I don't know that that can get done before these decisions have to be made, but I think it's something that we have to look hard at. I would also like to entertain with UDOT, like a pedestrian bridge or tunnel, but I think that's their property and their plans, and we can try to get them, persuade them, and even help them, but it's ultimately their decision, you know that. We'll probably work with the city to try to figure that out too. So,
and I think that would be my biggest concern, because it looks like Copper Mountain Middle School, I think, is the one that crosses Mountain View Corridor. Substantial number of students would be crossing on a daily basis, and that concerns me because it seems like it's half and half on either side. And so, from a city standpoint, that would probably, you know, that safety of our children, I think, is our number one priority, and you know, asking students to cross, you know, is there really any way to make that a safe crossing other than an overpass, you know, a dedicated pedestrian overpass? And so, as we're looking at these and addressing these, that would be probably my biggest concern is Copper Mountain Middle School being so clearly divided across Mountain View Corridor.
So not just Copper Mountain Middle School, right? You're talking about the new high school too, right?
Yeah. And the new high school.
And South Hills. So that's what becomes tricky, is then we have to start looking at all the different places that we already are asking people. So I've been working with that community coming across to Copper Mountain for years, and we've worked out some interesting situations, and they're never permanent. And you know, and every time I drive by there and I see some kid walking home from school across Mountain View, it's just crazy. But you know, people do it for Providence, you know. But the masses is what concerns me. This is a large high school, and a lot of kids are going to be driving across that. So, and we all agree it's not a very safe intersection. So.
The other question that I had regarding this, specific to the high school, as I'm looking at it, it looks like, are we seeing any issues with, sorry, let me get back to it, I was looking at them. Looks like we have a substantial number of students on the east side of that high school with not really a lot of access. Do we know if there's any plans through Riverton or Bluffdale to help address that? Has the school district, my question is, has the school district tried to address that?
I would say no. I wish we would. There's other board members that think that we should stay out of that. We think that's a fight between cities. I personally think that's going to be pretty resolved because, as you can see from the map, like kids that can throw a rock at the high school and hit it are going to be driving. I measured that. That's like 6.5 miles without Autumn Crest open. I don't know how long you drive 6.5 miles to school and 6.5 miles back before you say, can we have that road so we can walk to school? So I don't know. Like it's out of our control. We would join with you if you wanted us to. At least I would. And I can't speak for the rest of the board, but it concerns me. I think that our community should not be divided. They should be open for everybody. So,
thank you.
Is that it?
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
You're doing a tough job, so thanks for your hard work.
Now you can go home. These students can't, but you can. No. All right, we'll move on to item 4.3, Herriman Police Department update. Chief Carr.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just have to say, Chief Pilgrim smells delightful. I'll let him fill you in on that. Sorry, Riley, I
Nice.
couldn't resist. My friend, okay, good. See, now he's blushing. So.
That's our fire chief, just so everyone knows.
Right, yeah.
Over there.
And you know, he'll have a moment to tell you about it, I'm sure. So since we've last spoken, many things have happened, but 120 days, we've done it. 120 days, 4 months. We are operational. Okay.
Well done.
Where's the clock? I feel like the clock should be there.
The clock should have been here. I kind of dropped the ball. When it fell into single digits, I started to have all sorts of anxiety, so I stopped looking at it. No, it's sitting in our patrol room, mocking the rest of the officers now. Just not me. Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
My pleasure.
So again, amazing thing. September 17th was when we onboarded the mass of the police department. And that's when I saw what truly was amazing, and that was all the planning that had gone into it. And my hat is off to the command team, Chief Reyes, Lieutenant Stromberg, and Lieutenant Weidmer for what they've done. What was super interesting about that morning was and Brett was there, so I'd like his take on it as well, maybe if we can get that. Brett and I talked about how we would have a conversation with something that's never been done before in this city, and how we would have that conversation to make them understand our culture, because we only had one chance to get that right. So we went in there with a plan of organic growth and hoped that it worked. And really, it was something amazing. What took off from there was introductions of officers that we recognized were probably some of the most experienced and well-rounded officers in the region. And they started to have a conversation with each other and their experiences and how they believe the culture of Herriman is and should be. And as that kind of took off, Brett and I had a kind of an emotional moment there. So I'm going to make him become emotional if I don't stop, right?
There it goes.
You'll probably be hearing from me tomorrow night about that experience, but when you hear from these officers why they came over, we talk about one of our officers that his wife was attacked when he was on duty and how the city backed him and supported him. And his wife basically told him, "You're going to Herriman."
Yeah.
They want to be here. They want to serve our community. And it was emotional.
It was a touching time for sure. After we had this, what we thought would be a half-an-hour introduction and people talking, it turned into 3 hours, I think, total that we were down there with this introduction piece. And there was no way we wanted to stop. And again, this was, as far as a master plan goes, everything we could have hoped for and more to have this group come together. You get one chance in 1 day of 1 hour of 1 day to make a culture that might last a lifetime of a police department, you know? So we were very happy with that. We went into the assembly mode, basically the assembly line mode, as I explain it. And I have a whole list of stuff here I'd like to run through real quick, because again, I don't want the smell of Chief Pilgrim to degrade any so that you can enjoy as much as I did. So we had a weapons assignment right away, and that was the first day after we had our introduction. So we get weapons handed out. The guys go home. Next morning, they're up at 6:30 in the morning. They're down at SCAGs. They walk through the door. The entire SCAGs uniform staff is there, and they take one officer each and walk around, and they get them outfitted. They walk out the door. They go to the gun vault, and they get qualified. They're back here. We go through more classes. Some of the things that we've talked about were the chaplain services and peer support team. UFA taught us first aid, got us CPR certified. And this is just happening as quickly as possible during the days. Canine training, SWAT, CART, internet crimes against children, VFAST, all of these engagements that we have with memorandums of understanding with the federal task force are all explained to them and how they work. Death and sex crimes investigations, use of force reporting, arrest control tactics, tasers. They go through all these processes. They get their written certifications at night, and then during the day you may saw them running around City Hall hitting each other with sticks and doing those types of certifications. And then we went to the swearing-in ceremony walkthrough, and things ground to a halt. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a bunch of cops agree on anything. Right, Wendy?
It was fun to watch, Chief.
We walked through it. You can get firemen to agree on about everything. You can't get the officers to do it. So by the time it was done, it was actually an amazing, they had a lot of amazing input for it. That happened yesterday night. Today we get back, we do uniform formalizations, everything's set for today. Back into the classroom. These guys went through fleet, property, emergency vehicle operations, bailiff training, secondary work, policy reviews, you name it. This is just one after another these guys are going through. Thank goodness we have all experienced officers, because we threw a lot of information at them. And on cue, they impressed me quite a bit. Now, we will tomorrow night, as you know, meet, and we'll go through the inauguration ceremony, which will be amazing. You'll love it. After that, tomorrow morning comes. And tomorrow morning, we will start to go out and visit businesses. And as we talk to business owners to get them to understand the transition, we'll leave them our information, but we'll also make a database. We'll start creating our own database. Business owners, something happens to them in the night, our database will have that information to contact them. So some strategic thinking through there to get us through that transition of database transfer over. We hope that on Friday, our last vehicle will be wrapped and in hand. So I can't say enough about Christy Gunn and Monty Johnson, those guys. They've done it. The police department's in order and operational with the police auxiliary as well. Alan Ray's team has been instrumental and amazing in getting that transferred over so that we're all working. Our record systems are up. Our forensic systems are up. Our victim advocate is in place. She will be a South Jordan trainee. There just isn't anything that isn't ready to go. We're set. That's all I got. We're ready.
Awesome. Feels like
questions
we should
for me?
stand and clap.
Looking forward to tomorrow night.
Yeah.
It will be amazing. It really will. And Wendy, Shelley, Jonathan, and I'm going to leave out a whole lot of people, made that work for us as they put us here and there and X's on the stage. And it's going to be an amazing event. It really will. So.
Awesome.
We look forward to the first call of our department and everything that comes after.
Yeah, so I guess we should mention that. September 29th at 11:59, so 23:59 hours, we will call off of UPD and call in to VAC. And we will have a radio exchange. And at that point, we're going to go to work. And we'll have our first case numbers starting to come in. The phone system shouldn't be an issue. It's all been transferred over. Our radios are all working. We've been using them. So we're set.
So we're all going to remember the first case number. So make sure you're not it. Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something like a dog barking or somebody on a trail that needs to be quiet. That's what we're hoping for. We want a quiet night.
Sherry.
She's going to be right there, ready to call. It's 12:01. Here we go.
It's probably going to be someone calling.
Talking.
There's
I don't
a loud
know.
neighbor.
Somebody calling and disturbing the peace call on our police officers.
On our police officers. We're all standing around in the parking lot.
And I'm glad you didn't get arrested. That makes me
I was
happy.
glad I didn't get arrested. Wouldn't have made.
All right, will you hold the phone up to my ear so I can talk to Troy? So any questions for me before we let you experience the wonderful smell of
Outstanding job, Chief.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Proud of all the men and women that have come together to give our community this fantastic department.
Yeah. And the whole city really we have to give a hand to the whole city. Every department has functioned without fail.
Did we capture any video or pictures of this whole process?
Did.
Good.
And
I think it would be great for the residents to understand what the building of a police department looks like.
I'm sure with our communications team, there's a little something
coming.
We got
With a Yeti? Is there a Yeti involved?
There will be
We have a
now.
little something coming.
Okay, perfect.
I probably can't give away the Yeti
All right,
stuff
don't
yet,
say
but
anymore.
Yes, big surprises.
It's been incredible to me to get, because we have received the weekly updates with all the step-by-step, and it's like, I've told my family 100 times, this is crazy, the amount of things that go into creating this, just so many little intricacies that have to be, attended to, so
many
kudos
things that
to
you think
you.
about.
Yeah,
right?
no idea the level of work that goes into that, so it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish.
So there's a little thing called an ORI number that in law
Little thing.
enforcement you know very well. They're really hard to get. And we got it Monday morning, a week and a half ago, Monday morning, and it was, Brett literally picked me up and then shook me around. Everybody was just so ecstatic because we had so many things backed up on that number. As soon as it happened, the amazing piece was all of the teams that had all of those projects backed up, done, just one after another rolled out.
That's
so just for
awesome.
the members of the public that may not know,
Good.
Normally it takes a year to stand up a law enforcement department. These guys have done it in less than 20 weeks. So 4 months they have gone from, us sitting here at this, right here saying we want our own police department to we have a fully functioning police department that's staffed with overqualified officers, and it's just been an amazing feat to see them do. It's been truly incredible. So we are really excited.
Very exciting. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll move to item 4.4, Unified Fire Department update. Chief Riley Pilgrim.
Do you want to stand back farther so we don't have to smell you, or do we want to smell you?
I get to smell that every once in a while. If I stand close to somebody.
Took the long way back around there.
See, and you can't even bottle that, Chief. You can't. It's.
Sounds like somebody had some fun today.
All I do is work a lot and not shower. That's all it is. Yeah.
It's fire season. That's what we want you doing.
Still.
If you walk out of this room, come back, and it smells like fire.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
This is what my house smells like almost 365. It's just how we live. We've kind of come to accept that. So actually the reason I'm up here is in relation to the fire season. Been pretty interesting summer. Utah, I mean, definitely it's not uncharacteristic for us to have a busy August and busy September. This year has been a little busier than what we like. Yeah, there you go. So especially locally around here, we've had a significant increase in fires that have happened coincidentally in our area, not necessarily in Herriman itself, but the southwest quadrant of the valley, which has been, again, pretty standard for what we experience around here, but this summers were a little bit more unusual. That's mostly because some of these could have been prevented. So what I'd like to do is kind of share with you just some of the things I was asked to share in a previous meeting, just so everyone kind of understands what we've gone through the last couple of weeks and what we kind of have to share with the public. So September's been a rather busy month not only do we have the major fires going on in Utah County, we've been supporting those with some of the resources that we have here that don't compromise our local service delivery. And we've also had a number of small fires here on the Wasatch Front, especially here in Salt Lake Valley. Two of the most significant we had were right here, both impacting unincorporated Salt Lake County and Herriman, right on those boundaries there. So first one I kind of like to go into, this one was on September 12th, about 3:30 p.m. So the Rosecrest Fire is what we call it. The unincorporated county was in High Country 2, just outside of Yellow Fork Canyon. So the map, it's kind of small, but you can see the upper part of the map is north. So the fire began just off of Rose Canyon Road. Human cause, they determined it to be someone was just doing some electrical work on their home. They were digging some trenches, hit some power lines or hit some underground lines and sparked off the fire. So immediate life safety concern with just the power lines. Those are still live the entire time we were out there fighting fire, so those are exposed. We had a lot of resources there. Initially, multiple homes were threatened. Fire actually came in and it was relatively small, it was about 2 acres. And we had resources there to kind of get a handle on it, and then out of nowhere, just these winds started pushing up the canyon, and it made things rather difficult. So the little X that you see at the little white circle, I guess it's a little hard to see, that's kind of the origin. And the fire was basically just confined to that little small area at the bottom. What I believe definitely contributed to this was the multiple days leading up to this red flag weather. So red flag weather is typically low relative humidity, so it's really dry outside, very gusty winds and high temperatures. About this point, we're probably about 7 to 8 days into red flag conditions, so the fire conditions were not good, or anything that happened was going to turn into kind of problems. So the fact that we didn't have more issues than we did with this fire is definitely, we're lucky that we didn't, we're fortunate. So a lot of agencies responded. We had aircraft, we had fixed wings, so retardant drops, and we had helicopters, both from the Utah National Guard, due to its proximity to Camp Williams, as well as some federal resources that we called in. Fortunately, we do participate in the state of Utah's catastrophic wildfire reduction policy, so we've been working through that stuff. And when we do have fires like this, typically, our organization shoulders the cost of that, and we choose to pursue those cost recovery through the insurance companies or whatever. But luckily, due to our participation as UFSA, as well as our contract cities, these are covered when we do have these fires. So a fire that could cost typically tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, will cost us nothing, which is a huge relief. We did contain this one on September 14th. So we had resources out there each day. Due to the steep topography, there were some concerns that we just wanted to make sure that was definitely handled. Kind of how it started, the picture there you see on the left, small fire below the homes. It kind of just crept through that brush, and then the next thing you know, we got that gust of wind, and within minutes, it went from that to what you see on the right, just massive fire running up the hill, and trying to do everything we can to protect those homes that you kind of see in the smoke. And there's actually a home in the smoke. It's kind of hard to tell, but just above, left side of the picture, you'll see a little house up in the mid-slope area. Just right of that, there's a house in there that, we had firefighters on that trying to make sure it wasn't going to be impacted too heavily. So definitely did a great job on this one. No homes were lost, and as a matter of fact, even damage was minimal. Again, right here looking up, there's a house just above, again, that dark black smoke. We had crews up there doing some structure protection on that. Did lose a couple outbuildings on this one as well, some camping trailers, but no one hurt, no property, significant damage, none of that was experienced other than just those outbuildings and trailers. Again, rapid growth, and we were talking earlier, but when you just see the smoke starting to rise in the air and you see the patterns, for us, that's a sign that things aren't in our favor. It's going up the hill. That just wasn't good. So made it difficult to catch. That turns into some more hand crew stuff. We have to have boots on the ground to make sure we can catch this. Aircraft buys us time, but you got to follow it up with more people. So definitely resource intensive. Took a lot of time and a lot of effort. We were able to catch this. The night of, we had it pretty much contained, which was awesome. It ended up being about 70, I think this was 67 acres, a lot of hillside there. So great work by the crews that were on scene, and awesome response.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, Chief. We're no stranger to wildfires, obviously, and I know we've done education in the past on urban interface and creating a healthy buffer zone.
Yeah.
So did you see in these fires that some of that education is still existing and perhaps helped with the containment of this, or is it time to do more education on that very subject?
Yeah, actually, the High Country 1 fire that we'll get into next, benefits of the work we've done there over the last 5 to 7 years are evident. And in my opinion, we would have lost more homes and had more damage had we not been doing mitigation work and education. High Country 2, where this occurred, there's a little more resistance up there to get on the ball, get on the program and be involved with this kind of stuff. We have a lot of property owners adjacent to High Country 1 that are involved, but in this area over here by Arnold Hollow and all that, it's a little bit slower, not as much participation. We've done a lot of outreach in there, but a lot of the homeowners up there either decline to participate or they're just not interested. And so it makes our job a little more difficult. We want to do as much as we can to educate them and provide these services to them free of charge, as often as possible. And sometimes we often see the benefits of the work. That's what's awesome. And so we're hoping after something like this, with the tension's high, we can go in there, kind of re-engage them and let them know we're here to help them out. Want to make sure that if this happens in the future, which we know it will, this is like clockwork every September, and we have something in place to help them out. So we want to reach out to them, and our chief is committed to looking into both of these, make sure what we did, our response, and everything that we did was correct and to the best of our abilities, and look at what we can do better, for future incidents. And so that's one thing we want to follow up on for sure. Yeah, this area's a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to get them engaged in those kind of activities. So north of this, or I guess west of this, we've done a lot of work, and then north in the other neighborhood, we've done quite a bit of work. So, yeah, kind of good example too. Just we got aircraft in there at the nick of time. I know it's a short clip, but a lot of structure defense was taken care of when we could get those airplanes in there. A little bit safer than putting fire trucks in there. Very limited space and mobility. We really don't want to commit our resources to something where they might be put in a really bad spot. So aircraft is one of the ways that we can mitigate that. So that was this fire. Fortunately, we were able to catch that day, which is amazing when you look at it, that we were able to have that kind of progress there. So that was awesome. Coincidentally, the day after we contained that one, we got the more, kind of the more problematic, more significant fire that was in High Country. Initially, it was called the Herriman fire just because the incoming resource, first arriving engine, establishes a command. Typically, engine 103 uses Herriman command, and most of their, when they show up on calls. So initially, through our dispatches, the Herriman fire, Herriman command, we acknowledged quickly that a lot of this was in High Country estates, and so we did rename it the High Country fire. What you will notice, though, is a point of origin, again, down at the bottom with the white circle, was in Herriman City. And then once it crossed Herriman Highway, it did get into more Herriman City property. Pretty significant fire. This one ended up being about 114 acres. Again, human cause. This one was a little more, it's one of those ones that frustrates you a lot is, is someone playing with fireworks completely, number one, in a restricted area, which that's one thing. But on the second hand, out of the season, we're 2 months past where it's even legal to do it in the first place. And so, juveniles, and we did some news stories on this. In their mind, probably an innocent decision. They didn't understand the consequences, though, and what was about to happen.
Well, and can you just mention the type of firework?
It sounds like a smoke bomb.
Smoke bomb. So something that may not have a visible flame still
Right.
caused a major fire.
Correct. And that's something we got to understand. And so when we kind of get, a little bit of concern about the restrictions being too strict, they're in my opinion, they're great restrictions. They're where they need to be. This is proof of that just one small, tiny incident led to some catastrophic outcomes. Right where the fire started, there was one structure lost there. There was a home being remodeled. A lot of news coverage on that one. And then further into High Country Estates, probably just a little less than a quarter mile from this, or about there, we had the other home get lost, which was a primary residence to some individual, a family, parents and a child. So pretty significant loss. Again, I commend the crews that first responded. Their actions definitely were correct. It's hard, and this is another one our chief really wants to look into just to make sure that concerns of the homeowners addressed, that we did do things correctly. Again, red flag conditions. When we showed up on this, I was one of the first people there. We were dealing with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds that were consistent, not just like gusts. We had about 30 mile an hour wind consistent. Gusts were about 50 miles an hour. And so the fire behavior was extreme, very dangerous for first responders, even more dangerous for the civilians who were trying to get out of there and their animals and evacuating public. A lot of stuff happening, very small amount of time. And so again, fortunately, in this area in particular, High Country 1, we've actually done live evacuation drills. We've evacuated their community. We've educated. We've done a lot of outreach in there. We spend a significant amount of time working with this community because they're very engaged, very interested in that. And just due to that, the crews have a lot of familiarity with the homes in there, where the roads go, street names, so it's easy to send people where they need to go. So again, a lot of time has been spent there, and I feel like that was very advantageous as it led to some quick decisions. And it actually I believe it reduced the amount of property that could have been damaged or lost in there. So great job again by the resources that showed up. Again, I think we had roughly with staging, went to about a third, almost fourth alarm. We just kept adding stuff after the third alarm. So probably about 50 units total, well over 150 firefighters. One firefighter injured due to heat exhaustion. But again, rapid fire behavior, very difficult situation, a lot of emotions again with animals and trying to get homeowners out and people trying to get in, and just trying to be very sensitive to those needs and making sure that we're handling that stuff properly while addressing what was going on. But the crews did have to make some tough decisions. The one home that we did lose there was involved when they got there and they saw the fire moving towards other structures. That is one of those tough decisions that we trust these guys to make day in, day out, where they may have had to make a hard one where they left a house to go possibly defend 6 or 7 others. And so when I put myself in their shoes, and I've been there before, it's not an easy thing. It's not something they take lightly. There's definitely a lot of questions on why we do that, and there's a lot of training that goes into making those decisions. And so we back those guys up. We trust what they did, but we definitely want to look into it to make sure that when we do this in the future, again, we're making wise decisions. Unable to use aircraft due to the high wind speeds. Aircraft are not an option. So, and when we called this fire in, it was the 13th fire they were dealing with at that exact time, and all of them had requested an aircraft. So it just shows you the conditions for that week were just ready,
we had some aircraft
to go.
on scene. We just couldn't use them because they couldn't get low enough.
Yeah. So we made first priority fire out of 13 due to the amount of structures that were threatened. And then when we got a plane overhead, they said, no way, can't do anything. It's too dangerous. So again, just some difficult things in terms of getting this managed. Like I said, 2 homes were lost, several outbuildings were destroyed. Dozens of residents, into the hundreds were displaced during this fire. A lot of animals were at least taken. They had them staged. Some of the animals got out. We spent some time trying to capture, find, help homeowners locate dogs, horses, just a lot of different animals in there. Other challenging thing is the power was out for over 24 hours. Lost several power poles, damaged a lot of power lines, closed Herriman Highway because the lines all fell down over the roads. That's a significant in and out point, U111, and so that created a lot of heartache. And so, again, it just goes to show with the structures lost alone and the life safety problems, just something that, playful, innocent, negligent decision, whatever you want to look at it as, led to some very catastrophic results. Put public at risk, put the first responders at risk. We did lose homes. As far as easily going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars with all the property loss and damage. And again, it was just a poor decision. And so we want to make sure people understand that, even though it's September, things are starting to cool down. We're still in the heat of the season. Today we had a fire at Camp Williams. They were doing some controlled demolition with some unexploded ordnance, and we believe that was the cause. And it's probably about 75 acres. And again, with the wind, and even though it's only 75 degrees, it just took off, and very challenging to catch with the area it was located in. So I think we just need to be very aware that we're still right in the middle of fire season. I think it'll come to an end as soon as we start getting continual moisture, but we're not in the clear until you see that. So again, tough pictures. We don't want to show these, to be insensitive, but it just shows you the consequences that these decisions have. And how dangerous the situation is. It also shows you the wind. The smoke bent over like that, you know, the wind is blowing extremely fast, and crews are in there trying to take care of that right there. And so it's a very dangerous situation for everybody who's involved. Plus, trying to get public out of there and get them evacuated while we're dealing with this stuff is very challenging. And just examples, picture of the guys working out there. You see the fire up on the flat part, that's where it crossed Herriman Highway and took off into, even though the grass is only about 4 to 6 inches tall, it just ripped. Every time the wind would blow, we'd just see 10 to 20 foot flame lengths, and 300 feet it was just going. So very innocent looking, but very problematic. So again, we just trouble getting resources in there and trying to catch this with the wind. It was just too dangerous to put people in certain positions. A lot of staging, a lot of resources. We had all over the valley coming in here. We had people from Utah County that were willing to come up. We had Salt Lake City, a lot of stations backfilling our stations. And so, again, this shows you it's a multi-agency effort. This isn't something that we do alone. It's something that we definitely are here to help each other out with. So. And just we had a lot of resources coming in there. So challenge for us and the incident commander and everyone is just making sure we're coordinating all this stuff. We're not getting people logged up, backed up on roads. We did make a video, so our information outreach program put this together. Let's see if we can get to work. I don't know if you can click it on yours. This was on Facebook, and I'm getting several thousand views, hundreds upon hundreds of shares. If it doesn't work, that's all right. Towards the end there, if you go to the bottom, it's next to the last slide, actually. So probably slide 16. So our information outreach, the night of this fire, they quickly put this clip together and just put it on Facebook. It's a black square. There should be a video there. There you go. It may not work on there. So it's just, it goes over some quick, I put it on quick time, so that might be the problem. It's an Apple problem.
It's an Apple problem, Chief.
That's what I say, it's not a problem. It's not a problem for us.
Never a problem.
But anyway, just I'll kind of end it there. The videos kind of just go into quick educational outreach. We wanted to make sure we sent something out to the public quickly. And it was really just showing that the consequence of this, red flag warning, what they are, why you got to pay attention, and how catastrophic these can be if they start during these conditions. And so, again, we're going to do a job, we're going to take advantage of this opportunity. We're going to get out there and make sure we're engaging the public, especially in these higher risk areas. And, we're going to do as much outreach as we possibly can, especially into the winter and spring, so we're getting ready ahead of summertime next year. And, that's one thing we want to do is be very proactive on this stuff, just to make sure if we can't stop those fires, we can at least prepare the residents in the homes to be as resilient as possible when those happen. So. But yeah, great partnerships, Herriman City again, especially with the animals. That was awesome. They really stepped up, having you guys be in there, and we got Butterfield Park secured, and all the teamwork that went into that stuff, amazing. Without that, definitely would have been more chaotic. We had, individuals from the water department there helping us with hydrants, heavy equipment, just due to connections that we have within the city. And so, a lot of amazing things are happening with the partnerships that are established here, and just the history that we have with a lot of these individuals, and a lot of trust. They trust us, they trust the city. And that's a hard thing, especially when these things are happening. They're leaving their properties behind, and they're trusting us to take care of that stuff. And so it goes a long ways. We got a lot of thanks, and it's not just thanks for us. I think it's thanks for everybody who's involved in both these situations. So I don't know if you have any questions, but.
I just want to make a comment, Chief, if I can. You said heavy equipment, but JB Excavation is a local company, and Herriman grew up here, started a company with him and his dad. Every fire, every time he sees smoke, he calls me. And they're willing to mobilize dozers and get them into the area. And he's done that every single time. And he's one of those people, he's all in for our community. He never sends us a bill either. And that's a little frustrating, because it does cost him money to get them loaded from around the valley, get them hauled out here, get them staged up, get them off, get an operator on them. And Chief Pilgrim got to use one of them to cut a path in so they get up on that ridge and cut that fire off. And also Draper Fire was there with all their apparatus as well. So, yeah, you talk about the community coming together. It just like building a police department, it takes all the departments to put out a fire too.
Yeah, and it just goes to show during these emergencies, it's all hands on deck. We need as many people as possible in a coordinated effort, and that happens. And that's what's awesome out here is the coordination it's already there, it's in place. It's simple phone calls and things are happening even ahead of when we're asking. There's a lot of just, I feel like we're getting to the point where we're very prepared that we do know when we need that stuff, and it takes very little to make it happen, and so that's awesome. So we appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
I just have one comment, Chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I did appreciate that so much effort, and by community members too, the people who live there. But it did feel like there was a really steady stream of people who were not from that area that came to view the fire. Is that do you see that often? Because literally,
Sherry was not one of them.
I live there. But when we were trying to lead horses down the road, there was a nonstop line of traffic, and we don't live on a road that has a nonstop line of traffic on it. And I just kept thinking, this has to impede what you guys are trying to do when so many people just come to see the fire. It just feels like if there needs to be people there, that you guys would reach out and say, hey, we need 1,000 people to come out here and help us.
Yeah.
But it seems like it should be maybe left to the professionals in that instance.
Yeah, and we did have a serious problem. So even when I came in on Herriman Highway as it was starting, jammed up, both sides, and it was impossible to get fire trucks through there. And so, one thing we can work with now, especially now we have Herriman. UPD did a great job. I think it's the heat of the moment. We're trying to get stuff going. It's just getting roadblocks established a little bit farther out and getting people out of there as quick as possible. And it is a hard job. I gotta be honest, and we do this a lot, and we call them the looky-loos. People just want to come and see what's going on, and it is a public safety hazard, and it's a life safety hazard, and it creates significant problems for first responders coming in and people trying to get out. As a matter of fact, I haven't told a lot of people, but even when I went down on Herriman Highway, the fire's crossing the road, and I found a car of teenagers trying to drive through the fire, through the smoke, and I'm like, you guys got to get out of here right now. The fire's crossing the road. They're in there scared, have no idea what's going on, and we were dealing with that for probably the first 15 minutes. I'm trying to get people off of Herriman Highway, and they're just still driving through there. We have fire trucks on the road. We have people out fighting fire, and it took some time to get roadblocks put in the right place, because the challenge out there is there's also these little tiny roads that people take that they know are out there, and if we don't shut those down, they're just going to find another way in. And we had people up above, on top, like they're everywhere. And so it's amazing where people come from. They just come out of the woodworks. I mean, it's like, how did you get in here? I couldn't even get in here.
Yeah, Sherry, how do you get in there?
So,
I just said I was going home, and I did go home.
It's almost maddening and frustrating because we're trying to get stuff in there and we're trying to get people out. And I get it. It's cool. People want to come see what's going on. Like, I totally understand that part. And it's just that natural instinct that they shouldn't be doing that, right? But it creates some significant problems. And we've had issues, and it's the same thing with drones, it's the same thing with other stuff, where when people start flying drones, they have to land aircraft. And you're literally they're risking loss of property, possibly life safety. And so when people think, it's just cool to get it on Facebook, or, hey, I want to go get a look at this, like, this is awesome. Yeah, it is, but watch it from somewhere a little bit farther away, because it's not awesome for us. Like, when we have to deal with that and your safety is our number one concern, then we add more people that don't need to be there. Yeah, it's a struggle that we deal with on a regular basis. Any incident we go on, it's a common problem. So, but that's something we can address.
We appreciate the efforts that Unified does, and all of the departments do, to protect our residents and our community, whether it's inside or outside of the city. You guys put your lives on the line, and we appreciate it, so thank you very much.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, we appreciate the city. All these relationships are great, and we're grateful to be here, so, yeah.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, I promise, guys, we're almost done. It's okay, we're almost done. All right, item 5, or consent agenda, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written, Mayor.
Okay, a motion?
A second.
A motion, a second. Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. We've had a request from staff to continue item 6.1, so I'll accept a motion to do that at this time.
Motion to continue item 6.1.
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That motion passes. That is the end of our agenda. Just for public notice, we will have a planning commission meeting on October 4th. Our next city council meeting will be on October 10th. And then we do have some swearing in or some events. Our officers will be sworn in on tomorrow afternoon. On Saturday, September 29th, is the Herriman Family Wellness Fair out at the park right outside, and that'll go from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 p.m. And then we also have our Herriman Police Department will be at the October 1st food truck roundup, so you can come out, meet some of the officers, check out the vehicles, and see what we got going on. Also, our Herriman Howl, which is our annual Halloween event, will be on October 15th from 6 to 8 p.m. out at the park. With that, I will accept a motion to move into closed meeting.
I make a motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to convene in closed session for the purpose to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property as provided by Utah Code annotated 52-4-205.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. We are moving into our closed session, so that's the end of our meeting for tonight for you guys. Thank you for coming.
Woo!
You made it.
I told you we were almost done.